Hello and welcome to today's video. I've been seeing a lot of speed reviews go up on YouTube recently and I thought it sounded fun. So I figured I never did a follow-up haul from my September makeup haul. It was a pretty large makeup haul following a month-long trip home that we had. So I figured why not do a speed review of mostly just the makeup. I'm gonna stick to mostly just makeup in this thing, even though in that haul I showed a lot of like clothing items. I am wearing the pajama top right now. But yeah, I figured why not show you some makeup, talk about some makeup, and let's just review some makeup. Let's get into it. Okay, as we get started with the speed reviews, I wanted to talk about these Japanese tools. I believe one of the kits came with an eyelash curler and a tweezer, slanted tweezer, and then the other one was slanted tweezers and like pointy tweezers. And I am so pleasantly surprised with the quality of these things. We had some like really cheap, probably like dollar store tweezers, and they were less than ideal. So these were much better, and I picked these up from TJ Maxx for probably about $3 or $4.99 or something like that. Much better quality. So if you ever see something like this on sale at Ulta or at TJ Maxx and you need some tweezers or an eyelash curler, I highly recommend these. Also, I was using a cheap like pair of tweezers, and these are so much better. I do still occasionally, if I like go too hard, I can pinch my eyelid, but I have only pinched my eyelid like once. This set has been much better, and I've been much better about not pinching my eyelids with this pair. Okay, I have one skincare thing to talk to you about. This is the Ulta gift, the Lancome, little serum. I used this up completely recently. It's empty, but yeah, this not that great. I would not purchase the full size, and I do believe it runs pretty high in price. It's scented. I don't love that in a serum. I prefer to not have fragrance in like important skincare. I mean, it felt fine, but definitely there are so many better serums out there that do not have fragrance in them and have great ingredients. And you don't need to spend a lot of money on things like Lancome serums to get good ingredients in your skincare. Okay, next up I have a Smashbox Primer. I haven't actually used this one yet, but like I've said before, I've used one of these up before, and I've actually used a ton of different like brands of silicone primers up. I've used one from Ulta up, I've used one from Maybelline up, I believe I've used one, I honestly can't remember. I've used a lot of them up. And I do have to say that the Smashbox ones are slightly better in quality if you like a very silicone based primer, but I don't think they're worth the full retail price. What I've done is occasionally, especially around holiday times and 21 days of beauty sales, you can find Smashbox primers really cheaply. So I believe I found this one here on like in a random clearance deal at Ulta for like $3. So if you can ever get these on sale, they are worth it if you like a silicone primer, but definitely don't ever pay full price for these guys because they're not that much better than the drugstore brands, if that makes sense. Okay, the next product I have is a Naked Skin Concealer. This I picked up from TJ Maxx, and I was kind of curious to see how full coverage it might be, and honestly I hadn't tried much from Urban Decay, so I have to say a little bit disappointed. I wanted it to be more full coverage. I think this is kind of a medium coverage concealer. Fine for day-to-day use, but when I get on camera or when I'm going out like to look nice, not just kind of walk around town, I want a more heavy-duty concealer, and this one's just not it, even though this one is also a little too light, so it's very brightening. But this one I think will end up working out for me in the terms of I can mix it with other concealers. I do have one that is not the right color for me or like matches my skin too much, so maybe I'll have to mix this with my Makeup Revolution one and see if I can get some use out of it and maybe finish both of them that way. Okay, and the next product I have here is a NYX lip liner in the shade Pumpkin. I had really high hopes for this product, and I complained about this product a little bit in the haul video because if you can see, it's swatched here. It's got a sheen to it, like it's kind of on the metallic side, and I was just a little bit bummed by that. I was really hoping that it would be matte. Not only that, I was hoping that it would just be just a tad lighter. It's almost too deep of an orange for what I was hoping for, but it's so hard to pick shades online. I think that when you buy lip liners, you probably, especially unless you already know what shade you want, you would probably do better finding the shade in store. So a little bit bummed, but I will use this and it will serve the purpose of an orange lip liner in my collection. It is different than a red lip liner. It's just not the perfect orange lip liner that I was hoping for. Okay, the next product I have here are Anastasia Lashes. I do not like these. I ended up picking these up just because mostly I was curious. I am going to finish using these until they die a glorious death, but honestly, the band I find to be pretty stiff. I think bands are tricky. You have to kind of hit a sweet spot, or at least for my preferences. They need to be flexible, but not too flexible, like not too flimsy. And then also I want them to have a little bit of stiffness because I think that helps when you start to apply them. but these are like too stiff. Now I can get them on, but they have been one of the few lashes that I've tried that has just been a pain in the butt some days to get on. I think I had one day where they went on really well, but every other day I've worn them, they've been a little bit of a pain in the butt. So I definitely don't think these are worth it, even though they are beautiful. I like the style of the lash, but the ability to put these on was a little bit too difficult for the price tag in my opinion. Okay, the next little product we're talking about is my Milk makeup gift. This was the gift from Sephora this year. This is in the shade Work. I really am surprised with how much I like this little thing. This is a lip and cheek product. Let me give you a little swatch. So that's a swatch built up right there. And I think this little thing is beautiful. I actually thought in the container, I thought maybe it would be harder to use or maybe it would be too pigmented. It's not. This is kind of built up, so it's so easy to like run onto a sponge, and like that's how I prefer it, and then tap it onto my cheek. I think it's so beautiful, and I really like the formula too. So I hope that I think they make minis like this, but I definitely would say pick up the mini, not the full size. You don't need the full size. I'm sure this mini would last you a really long time, but I actually am interested in trying some more shades from this line. Okay, and the next product is one that surprised me. This is my Marc Jacobs bronzer in the shade Tantric. I picked this up at TJ Maxx thinking, okay, it's finally in my price range enough to try it. It's gotta be overhyped, right? This bronzer. I really like it. I don't know if you can tell, let me see. I don't know if you'll be able to tell, but I've only used it for like a month probably, or probably around 30 times of usage, and I'm already starting to wear off the like pattern in there, but I like it so much. It's I actually am wearing it today too. It's such a flattering shade of bronzer, and it's pigmented but not too pigmented, and it's buildable. I am just really impressed with this formula. It's one of the few things that I've had to talk myself out of buying a backup recently, because right now Sephora does have this item on sale, and like literally I've had to talk myself out of buying a backup because I'm like, literally you have brand new product pretty much still, you don't need a backup, but I really like it like so much, like so much. Okay, moving on to the next product, we're talking about my Natasha Denona Diamond and Blush palette. This is a little bit shiny, so it's gonna be a little bit hard to show on camera, but this is what it looks like. It has a row of creams, although I think this guy over here, this like duochrome thing, it doesn't feel like a cream to me, it feels like a powder, but that is probably my favorite shade in the entire palette. It's this beautiful like blush topper, I find. It's perfect like blush to highlight kind of transition. It's so beautiful, so beautiful. But yeah, I do like the whole palette, but I do think that some of these shades are so hard pressed that I was not expecting. Like the first time I went to use it and I was like, where's the pigment? But then you realize that they're just really hard pressed. Like I have to kind of dig my brush into the highlights down here. I have to kind of dig my sponge into like the cream product and the blush. Like they're all just really hard pressed, which I think is fine, but yeah, I think I maybe went in thinking this might be overly pigmented, but it's really not, which is again something that I would prefer to build up rather than like go in the first time and like you ruin your makeup because it's too pigmented. But yeah, this one is beautiful, but I will say that I am glad that I got this on sale. I got this on sale when it was like half off, plus there was like the coupon around August from Sephora, because if I had paid full price, I believe this retails for like $90 or more. If I had paid full price for this, I don't think I would feel the way I feel about it, but I am glad it's worth the, like, I think I spent about $35 on it. It's definitely worth that. I have no complaints for that, but I don't know if it's worth the $90 price tag, if that makes sense. Okay, next up I have two pieces from Fenty. I've never tried anything until, well, minus like one little mini Fenty lipstick. I picked up the shade Midnight Wasabi from Fenty. It's a beautiful green lipstick, like green. Like a deep foresty green, and I really like it. I'm surprised that I like it this much. Also, this lipstick gives you like very white teeth effect. It's so pretty. And also I do think that these are on sale on Sephora. I don't know if that means they're getting rid of them. I kind of hope not, because I like this a lot, but if you've been wanting a green statement lip in your collection, I kind of think that you should check this one out. And then the other thing here is the Fenty cream blush in the shade Fuego Flush. And this is what it looks like in the pan. I love this blush. It is very sheer, especially if you try to use a brush. I do not like it with the brush, but I end up using, if I want that really orange color, I have to use my fingers and kind of tap it out onto my cheeks. Let's see if I can find a spot and like tap it out onto my cheeks. But if I want it to be more sheer, then I could just use my little sponge and like dip into it. I really want to try more from this line, more colors, because I really like this formula. It's got a little bit of a sheen to it, a little bit of sparkle to it. I love it. It's, well, not sparkle, it's just sheen. It's just not matte. It's really, really pretty. And I love the finish of this. Okay, next up, I have 3 liners from Fuego Beauty. I really like all of these too. This, I have Acid Trip, this orange shade, Fanny Pack, and Dance Party. I end up mixing Dance Party and Fanny Pack occasionally to make, make a like kind of a lime green neon kind of shade that matches one of my nail polishes. So I really like mixing these two, but also I do think that the Fanny Pack shade is really, really stunning on its own. I don't know how to wear Dance Party yet that well, but I am gonna play with that more this summer. But this guy here, Acid Trip, such a fun shade to wear too. If you wear either one of these as just like a dramatic liner and like throw on some lashes, it's one of my favorite things that I wore this summer. And I'm sad that I got them at the end of summer so that I didn't get a chance to wear them all that often, but you bet your butt that next summer I am going to be wearing neons non-stop, even if it's not a trend anymore. I've always adored neon, so I really like these little guys here. Okay, we are down to the last 5 products. They're all eyeshadows, so I saved the best for last. The first 2 I'll kind of mention together. These are probably the most affordable pieces that I purchased when I was home. So this guy was $5 from Walmart. This is the Emeralds palette from Profusion. I like this palette. I have to admit, I kind of just bought it mostly for like these greens here, which those greens are fantastic. I really like the mattes in this palette. They're very, very good. The shimmers are a little bit sheer, but if you like dig in really hard, like for example, that's, can you see that? Now let's see, let me swatch it somewhere. So like that's kind of sheer, right? But if you like really dig in and dig in and dig in and then try to swatch it, you can kind of build it up, but it's definitely a powdery formula, everything is. But again, I think the thing that you have to note with this palette is that it's $5 and that you're getting $5 worth of quality here, but I think it's definitely worth the $5 value. I am not super comfortable in these like teal shades, these blue leaning greens down here, so that's not for me necessarily, but for the 2 greens up here, the brown's pretty good, and then maybe like these 3 greens, I do like all of those. So should I bought this palette? Probably not, but I do enjoy it and I think the quality is pretty decent, especially for $5. Okay, the other palette that I was talking about being affordable is this Night and Day palette by Makeup Revolution. I enjoy the color story of this so much. I will say this is a powdery formula. The mattes in here are super powdery. I am wearing this palette today on my eyes. I wanted to wear this gold. I had not worn it yet. I honestly am so drawn to these 2 special shades down here. This is duping one of the Pat McGrath palettes, and I wish I had the money for the Pat McGrath quality because I can't imagine how good it is since I already enjoy this. I did pick this up half off, so I believe that normal retail price is around $20. I did get it for like $10. I think it's worth the $10 price tag. I enjoy the cool tones in here so much, although again, it is super powdery. But I will admit that there is kind of a similar complaint to the Emeralds palette in that the shimmers are a bit like sheer. So like for example, this shade here is my absolute favorite. It looks beautiful right there, but you really kind of have to build it up when you go to like put it on your eyelid. Can you see that, how it doesn't really show up? Now again, duochromes are always kind of difficult to work with. They kind of build up better when you give them like a base to put on. So like if I build it up over a matte, you can kind of see that better. And also like this shade here is a nice, beautiful kind of glittery topper shade. And again, it's just kind of one of those things that if you're not careful, it kind of flakes away really easily because it's so powdery. So I actually, when I use those 2 shades, I sometimes will end up using a glitter glue because it kind of needs it. Now the gold today, I didn't use glitter glue. It looks fine, but I admit that I had to like dig in there to like get the pigment built up like I wanted it to, and then I kind of had to like pat it on, and I ended up having to layer it like twice to get it to like this kind of intense gold that's on my lid now. I haven't really played with the black much, but from what I can tell, it's kind of like the other things in here. They're more buildable. You're not going to get intense super payoff in pigment right away. This shade here is really beautiful, like to highlight your brow bone. I really do like that shade. And then this shade here I've used as an outer corner a couple times, even though it is like a metallic one. I do think it's really beautiful. I have not played with this blue yet, or other than swatching it. It is pretty pigmented, but again, I think it's going to be one of those shades that ends up performing much better over, can you kind of see that? It almost looks kind of sheer still, even though on my finger it looks super intense. Like for whatever reason, they don't go, like when you move them from like a pan to your eye, especially if you're using your fingers, which is what I tend to do, they don't tend to like build up super well without really working for it. Although again, I do think the color story is really pretty. So I am happy with this palette. I do think that it is a little bit lower quality than what you would get from like a Pat McGrath kind of thing, but for $10, it's exactly what I wanted. I really wanted something with that color story, and I really am enjoying it so far. Okay, let's flip and talk about a palette that does not have bad quality at all. This is a Too Faced Sparkling Pineapple palette. This is what it looks like. I got mine on clearance at TJ Maxx for about $10, and this thing, the quality is absolutely there. Now the color story, it's gonna come down to everything. It's always color story. If this is a color story you enjoy, and if you can still get your hands on this, it's worth it. Now I will say, like, this like chunky, this little shade here in the middle is chunky. Now look at this. Can you see how intense that swatch is compared to like some of these guys that you had to see me like build up? So good. And then this green shade, this is pretty much the reason I got suckered into buying this palette. I had to give a better swatch, or I tried to give a better swatch, but my fingers are disgusting, and I realized that one time when I tried to swatch it, I had like blue still on my finger. But yeah, this palette is really nice in quality. There are no complaints there. For me, I have to admit that like two of the shades, the two like light shades, although they are really pretty, I just don't think I'll use them that much unless I roll them into a project pan or something eventually. But they are really pretty. I just don't wear shades like that often, if that makes sense. Okay, let's talk about the last two palettes I have here. They are much better quality than like the Makeup Revolution or the Profusion palettes, but they probably don't quite stand up to like a Too Faced formula. As many people like to say, ColourPop has a great formula, especially for the price, and I definitely agree. For me, this is one of those palettes that I kind of picked up on a whim. I shouldn't have bought it probably because it doesn't really, the color story doesn't really speak to me. But what I ended up doing is I wanted to try Sandman, I wanted to try Poodle. Those were two singles I was considering picking up, and I believe the singles run about $5 sometimes. So this palette was less than $20 when I picked it up. I also wanted at the time to try these two glitters, which again are around $5 or so. So by that point, I was already at $20 when I was considering buying singles. So I went ahead and bought this palette that had the shades that I was considering buying. And I am glad that I picked the palette up because there are shades in here that I wouldn't have been interested in unless I would have tried them. Like this Pretty Cruel shade. It's a matte with a glitter in it, but I really, really like it. And the glitter in it doesn't bother me at all. It kind of fluffs away on your brush, especially if you like knock it off. It's so beautiful. Sandman, so worth it. I really enjoy that shade. Too Much is another matte with glitter, but I really enjoy that one too. I do like the glitters, although Hungry Ghost is just, it's my favorite glitter. I was hoping one of these would maybe challenge it. Hungry Ghost is still like the best, prettiest glitter I've ever used. But yeah, the Jackpot was not a bad shade, although for me it doesn't, like in the shade, in the palette, it looks like it pulls very purple. On me it pulls really pink. But sadly, Poodle was one that I don't really love on myself really. But maybe in the spring when I play with pinks a little bit more, I'll find that I like it at that time better. But so far I've been a little let down with that shade, so I'm glad that I didn't buy it as a single and that it came in this palette. But yeah, Sweet Dreams is another beautiful shade. This matter of fact, this cream shade up here, I don't normally get into like cream shades, but I have to say I really like that cream shade. Like it actually does kind of cancel out some things on my lid. I don't know. That's one of the few cream shades that I've kind of been like, all right, I see you, cream shade, that's pretty good. And then I will lastly say that these two like shades here, they look pretty similar, but on my eyes they pull a little different. This one pulls almost more mauve-y brown, but these are pretty good transition shades and they're cooler toned, so I do like those a lot. Laylo is another good transition shade, but it's a little bit more warm. But yeah, it's got good fundamental shades. This would probably be one of those palettes that I would like the shades, some of the shades better if I ended up depotting them in the future, but I don't really want to do that to my palettes as of right now. So I do like a lot of the shades, but this color story is one that I don't love, even though it is good quality, if that makes sense. And lastly, let's talk about the Nomad palette by Juvia's Place. I love this palette. I was not going to pick this palette up because it's mostly matte. I was into Juvia's Place shimmers, so I thought, but this palette is so good. I really do enjoy this matte formula in this palette. It's so, so good. This middle metallic shade though is one of the most beautiful shades I've ever used ever. It's just this beautiful kind of like neutral gold. I don't know, it's perfect. And all of these shades in this palette, I don't know if you can see that, all of these shades in this palette are like so unique. Everything's kind of got this yellow undertone to it. This green has a bit of a yellow undertone to it. This orange has a yellow undertone to it. And it's just so cohesive and beautiful. This shade here doesn't really show up on me, but that's not really a big deal in the grand scheme of things. but these two shades are really beautiful. And while at first when I looked at it, I remember thinking to myself, why do you need two yellows? I do like both yellows, and I never thought I would really like a yellow with glitter in it, but I do. It's beautiful, especially if you want to create like a sunflower look. It's so stinking beautiful. And I will go ahead and say that this is probably one of the top 2 to 3 eyeshadow palettes that I've tried this year in 2020. It's so dang good. I'm so glad that I picked this up on a whim. Okay, I realized that after I talked about that palette that I was a little bit out of breath because I meant what I said there, but that's all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments. I'm kind of toying with the idea of doing like either a speed review or something with all the makeup that I tried from the beginning, since the beginning of the year, but I don't know if y'all would be interested in seeing that. Let me know in the comments if you would be interested in that. And yeah, that's all for today. I will see you in the next one. Bye.